The history of the United States is filled with leaders who have shaped the nation, for better or worse. With 46 presidents in total, each one has left their mark on history, some for their remarkable leadership and others for their major blunders. While many presidents are remembered for guiding the country through pivotal moments, some have made decisions that led to disasters. Whether it was through poor leadership, failed policies, or controversial actions, these presidents have left legacies that many would rather forget. In this video, we're counting down the 10 worst presidents in U.S. history. These are the leaders whose time in office caused lasting harm to the nation, whether through economic struggles, wars, or deeply divisive decisions. So if you've ever wondered who the truly disastrous presidents were, stick around. We're about to reveal the worst of the worst, and you might be surprised by who made our list. Let's start. Number 10. Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States, is often criticized for his policies that caused long-lasting harm to both Native Americans and the nation's political system. His forced relocation of thousands of Native Americans, known as the Trail of Tears, led to the death and suffering of many and permanently disrupted tribal societies. Jackson's opposition to the national bank, while popular with some, contributed to economic instability, culminating in a financial panic. Jackson's presidency was characterized by his authoritarian use of executive power, often sidelining Congress and political opponents. He was known for his harsh treatment of adversaries and refusal to compromise, leaving a divisive legacy. His support for the expansion of slavery into new territories and advocacy for manifest destiny further entrenched racial inequality. While promoting the era of the common man, Jackson ignored the rights of many minorities, including Native Americans and African Americans, leaving a legacy of conflict and division. Number 9. George W. Bush. George W. Bush, the 43rd President of the United States, is often criticized for his controversial handling of key events during his presidency. His decision to invade Iraq, based on faulty intelligence regarding weapons of mass destruction, led to a prolonged conflict that resulted in significant loss of life and destabilized the Middle East. The war's aftermath contributed to the rise of ISIS and further unrest in the region. Bush's administration also faced severe backlash for its ineffective response to Hurricane Katrina, which exposed weaknesses in disaster preparedness. Domestically, his policies, including deregulation of financial institutions, played a role in the 2008 financial crisis, which resulted in widespread unemployment and foreclosures. His aggressive military intervention strained U.S. resources and damaged global standing. His policies polarized the nation, especially regarding the war on terror and surveillance programs. By the end of his presidency, his approval ratings were low, and his time in office is widely regarded as a failure. Number 8. John Tyler. John Tyler, the 10th President of the United States, is often viewed as one of the least effective presidents due to his lack of party loyalty and inconsistent leadership. He assumed office after the death of William Henry Harrison, but his legitimacy was questioned, with many considering him an illegitimate president. Tyler's policies largely favored Southern interests, particularly in relation to slavery and territorial expansion, and his support for the annexation of Texas escalated tensions with Mexico, eventually leading to the Mexican-American War. His presidency was marked by frequent vetoes, alienating both Whigs and Democrats, leaving him isolated. His expansionist policies worsened relations with Native American tribes, and his inability to manage foreign relations with Britain and Mexico further damaged his reputation. Tyler also failed to address internal political divisions and national crises, ultimately becoming the first president to face impeachment, though he was never formally removed from office, leaving behind a legacy of ineffective governance. Number 7. Millard Filmore. Millard Filmore, the 13th President of the United States, is often remembered for his ineffective leadership during a time of deepening national crisis. He signed the controversial Fugitive Slave Act, which angered Northern abolitionists and worsened sectional tensions between the North and South. Although he played a role in enforcing the Compromise of 1850, it failed to address the growing issue of slavery, and his pro-slavery policies alienated anti-slavery activists. Filmore's presidency was marked by indecision and weak leadership, especially regarding the spread of slavery into new territories. His inaction on the Kansas-Nebraska Act increased tensions, ultimately leading to violence. Filmore did not address Native American rights, continuing their displacement, and failed to respond to the economic and political challenges of the time. As a result, his presidency did little to solve the nation's growing problems, and is often seen as ineffective and lacking long-term progress. Number 6. Warren G. Harding. Warren G. Harding, the 29th President of the United States, presided over one of the most corrupt administrations in U.S. history. His presidency was marred by the Teapot Dome scandal, where government officials leased federal oil reserves to private companies in exchange for bribes. Harding appointed friends and allies to key positions, many of whom were involved in scandals, further fueling widespread corruption, cronyism, and mismanagement. Harding's failure to address economic inequalities and his reluctance to take swift action against corruption tarnished his reputation. His return to normalcy policies favored business interests over much-needed social reforms, leaving the nation with unresolved issues. Despite revelations of corruption, Harding did little to restore public trust or curb the mismanagement of public resources. He died suddenly in office, leaving behind a presidency defined by scandal, neglect, and the erosion of public confidence in government institutions. Number 5. Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, the 37th President of the United States, 1969-1974, presided over a tumultuous era marked by significant achievements overshadowed by scandal and controversy. His presidency is most infamous for the Watergate scandal, where a campaign of political espionage and illegal activities against opponents culminated in a cover-up that sparked national outrage. The scandal revealed Nixon's manipulation of public opinion through misinformation and his abuse of power, ultimately forcing him to resign in 1974 to avoid impeachment, the first U.S. president to do so. Nixon's foreign policy had successes, including opening diplomatic relations with China and easing Cold War tensions through détente with the Soviet Union. However, his escalation of the Vietnam War, including a secret bombing campaign in Cambodia, prolonged the conflict and deepened public distrust. His role in expanding government surveillance programs further eroded confidence in leadership. Nixon's actions irreparably damaged the presidency's integrity, tarnishing his legacy forever. Number 4. Franklin Pierce. Franklin Pierce, the 14th President of the United States, is often ranked among the worst presidents due to his divisive policies that exacerbated sectional tensions leading to the Civil War. A staunch supporter of pro-slavery interests, Pierce's signing of the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854 was a disastrous decision. The act repealed the Missouri Compromise, allowing states to decide on slavery through popular sovereignty. This ignited violent conflict in Bleeding Kansas, deepening national divisions. Pierce's administration aggressively pursued the expansion of slavery, alienating Northern abolitionists and moderates. His foreign policy, including attempts to acquire Cuba through the controversial Ostend Manifesto, further fueled criticism of his pro-slavery agenda. Unable to unify his party or the country, Pierce lost the support of Democrats and failed to secure renomination for a second term. His presidency is remembered for its lack of moral leadership and its role in accelerating the nation's descent into civil war. Number 3. Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States, is often criticized for his ineffective leadership during the early years of the Great Depression. Inheriting a booming economy, Hoover's presidency was derailed by the stock market crash of 1929 and the ensuing economic collapse. Despite his background as a successful businessman and humanitarian, Hoover's response to the crisis was widely seen as inadequate and out of touch. He resisted providing direct federal aid to struggling Americans, relying instead on voluntary measures and limited government intervention, which failed to address the worsening unemployment and widespread poverty. Programs like the Reconstruction Finance Corporation were too little, too late. Hoover's handling of the Bonus Army protest, where World War I veterans demanding early pensions were forcefully dispersed, further damaged his reputation. His inability to inspire confidence or enact effective solutions left a legacy of hardship and paved the way for Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal. Number 2. Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson, the 17th President of the United States, is widely regarded as one of the worst presidents due to his mishandling of Reconstruction after the Civil War. Succeeding Abraham Lincoln following his assassination, Johnson faced the monumental task of reuniting a deeply divided nation. However, his lenient approach toward the former Confederate states, including pardoning many Southern leaders and opposing protections for newly freed African Americans, undermined efforts to achieve racial equality and justice. Johnson's vetoes of key Reconstruction legislation, such as the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the Freedmen's Bureau Act, alienated Congress, particularly the radical Republicans. This led to a power struggle that culminated in his impeachment by the House of Representatives. Although he narrowly avoided removal from office by one Senate vote, his presidency is criticized for enabling systemic racism, weakening Reconstruction, and missing a crucial opportunity to rebuild the nation on a foundation of equality. Number 1. James Buchanan. James Buchanan, the 15th President of the United States, is often regarded as one of the worst presidents in American history. His presidency was marked by inaction and poor leadership during a time of deep national division. Buchanan's failure to address the growing tensions over slavery and his support for the pro-slavery Lecompton Constitution in Kansas alienated both Northern and Southern factions. His inability to take decisive action against Southern secessionists further destabilized the nation. Buchanan claimed that states had no right to secede, but argued that the federal government lacked the authority to stop them, effectively leaving the Union to unravel. His administration is seen as a prelude to the Civil War, as he left the crisis for his successor, Abraham Lincoln, to resolve. Lacking moral clarity and strong leadership, Buchanan's presidency is a cautionary tale of political indecision during critical times. And there you have it, 10 most controversial and challenging presidencies in U.S. history. From bad decisions to missed opportunities, these leaders left their mark, though not always for the right reasons. Whether it's failed policies, scandals, or simply poor leadership during critical times, each of these presidents faced their own set of struggles. But remember, history is complex, and while these leaders might have fallen short in some areas, they also reflect the challenges and flaws of their times. Do you agree with our list? Or do you think some presidents deserved a second chance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful content on U.S. history and politics. Thanks for watching.